This is my collection of European mounts that I've done myself over the last 3 years. This one here is my 2010 4x3. It's not very big, but where we go, we're more of meat hunters, and I was pretty happy to get him actually, because he's pretty tall, but not really that wide. But I used to boil it. Of course, the hardest thing is to get all that brains out of there, and you never seem to get all of everything. There's always a little bit of chunks in there. You have the option of cleaning teeth if you want to, or just leaving them dirty. This one I kind of cleaned up the teeth quite a bit, but when you boil it, the faster you boil it, the better. If you let your deer sit for 2 or 3 weeks and then decide to boil the head, it's really hard to boil it because that skin just dries out and sticks to that skull. And this one I actually had to boil for like 3 days because I did wait for about a week and a half to 2 weeks before I did it. These two little pieces right here, this piece and this piece, are the pieces that always seem to fall off. So after you skin the deer, the way that I do it, you skin the hide off the face and everything. You put a rubber band around here and around his nose, because these two pieces here, not all the time, but sometimes they like to come off too. So, and then you use some super glue or some Gorilla Glue in these little crevices here to put it back all together. And it never goes back perfect. This one's got some dust on it because it's been in my living room, but it always seems to turn out real good. On this one, I used a satin finish, and I really didn't like it because it darkened the skull. It made it kind of yellowish. If you look at some of the other ones I'm going to show you here in a second, it's not as yellow. It's more of a clear coat. It's got more texture. Some people actually will leave before they boil it. You skin it, and it's still got that resin of tissue all over his skull. You can take just a regular handheld torch, and I haven't tried this yet, but I'm going to, I think, next year. You take that torch and you burn that layer of skin that's still on there, and it actually leaves little dark marks and veins on the skull. I haven't done it myself, but I think I'm going to try it next year because I've seen a couple of my buddies have done, and it turned out really good. But that's my 4x3 from 2010. 2011, I came over across this little ridge and saw 2 bucks together, and I only had a shot on one, and I only had about 5 seconds to shoot. So I just shot the closest one to me, and it ended up being this little 5x4, and I called it the midget 5x4, or little person 5x4. I don't mean to offend anybody, but he was only 2.5 years old when I went down and talked to the Fish and Game at the check station. Of course, the brains is the hardest part to get out. As you can see, I didn't clean him out as good. I boiled him about the same as the other guy, about a week and a half to 2 weeks. I waited a little bit too long, but I didn't clean him as much. I didn't have as much time as my 2011 deer. You can see I still have a couple little hairs on him, but that is my 5x4 that I got from 2011. A little bit different horns. I wish I would have waited on him another couple years, because he would have been huge. He's got good genetics and looks like he had some good nutrition, because his horns really grew fast for 2.5-year-old. But if you haven't noticed, where I hunt is up at Spencer. It's very lucky or very rare that you see the devil horns on the antlers. That's what I call them anyway. The tines, or whatever you want to call them. But on the deer up there, you very rarely see it. We did get a 3x3 this year that had some 3-inch devil horns on top, and next year I want to shoot for a devil horn deer. This next one is 2012. I had injured my back, so this year I had a good harvest on this deer. I just finished him up. Oh, it's been about 3 weeks since I did him, but he was a 4.5-year-old, and as you can see, he didn't have, you know, any devil horns, but he is a 4x3, but he's got a 25.5-inch spread. So compared to like your 5x4, I can actually put him inside of him. And he's just got a lot of 25.5-inch spread, and that's the Fish and Game's measurements. But he was with a bigger buck that came out of a canyon when I was sitting on the bottom because I've been injured, and I was down waiting for all my buddies to come out of this canyon, and he came out. But not really some big girth. I mean, he's just tall and wide. He's 24 inches tall and 25.5 inches wide. I was really happy to take him, even though he was with a bigger guy. I didn't have a shot at the bigger guy that was a clean kill, so I decided to take this guy while I had the chance. So good harvest for me. But I used on him, I just used the clear gloss acrylic coat. He did get a little bit yellow in here, but over time that yellow will kind of fade off. And again, you got to watch these bones down here and these bones here when you do boil him. I actually boiled him about 3 days after my harvest. Well, actually, I got home. He was hanging for 6 days up at hunting camp. It was cold enough, but when I got him home, I immediately, 3 days after I got home, I boiled him, and the skin and the brains came right out. On that 2010 deer, I had to use a pressure washer and put it in his skull to get all his brains out. This guy cleaned up really, really good. So that's my 2012, and that is my collection of my European mounts that I've done myself of mule deer.